Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. So tomorrow night is Purim, and we all know that when we read the Megillah, whenever we mention the name Haman, the villain in the story, we boo. And more specifically, we twirl our groggers to make loud noises to blot out the name of Haman. And there's one other rabbinic holiday called Hanukkah. And there we also twirl not a grogger, but a dreidel. But there's a difference between the way the grogger is twirled and the way the dreidel is twirled. When we twirl the grogger, we hold the stem on the bottom and it twirls on top. But when we twirl the dreidel, we hold the stem on the top and the twirling is on the bottom. And the question is, why the difference between the spinning of the dreidel and the spinning of the grogger? And furthermore, the question is, what is the whole idea behind spinning dreidels and spinning groggers? And here there's a beautiful explanation given. You see, both Hanukkah and Purim represent miraculous events, but there's a fundamental difference. In the story of Hanukkah, it was a revealed miracle. A little cruse of oil that only had enough to burn for one night, miraculously burned for 8 nights, 8 days. That's a divine revealed miracle. But when you read the Megillah, the story of Purim, there's no open hand of God. It's a series of events that unfold in a miraculous sequential way that you recognize the hand of God is orchestrating these events, the deliverance and the salvation of the Jews through Mordechai and Esther and the downfall of Haman. And that's the difference between the grogger and the dreidel. You see, the world is always spinning. And the question is, do we see it as spinning from above or from below? On Hanukkah, the stem is twirled from on top. We say this is God bringing about the miraculous miracle of the oil. It's clearly from Hashem. When it comes to Purim, it seems that we below are moving the world, meaning changing the events for the salvation of the Jews. It's the work of Mordechai and Esther who bring about the redemption of the Jewish people. The spinning is from the bottom, but we recognize and declare thanks to Hashem and say, God, we know that you are behind the scenes bringing about the miracles that may seem are natural and orderly in the physical realm, but they really come from a divine, higher spiritual source. And this is the whole idea of spinning dreidels and groggers. You see, both a dreidel and a grogger are four-dimensional. Something that is square and four-dimensional represents finity. Something that is limited, that has a beginning and an end, and has a finite dimension. However, when something twirls around in a circle, whether it's a dreidel or whether it's a grogger, it represents a circle, which a circle represents infinity, no beginning and no end. And what we declare by spinning the dreidel and the grogger is that whether it's natural miracles, which are like the story of Purim, or supernatural miracles like Hanukkah, we know that in both instances, the physical dimensional space of this world is all ordained and orchestrated from above, and therefore we turn the square into a circle, representing that the finite is really infinity. One of the hostages we met that came out of Gaza was Omer Shem Tov. And after he came out, his parents went online and posted the following video. They held up this book. It's called Dvar Malchut. I actually receive it in the mail each and every week. And what it is a weekly compilation of about 200 pages of weekly Torah study that pertains to that week, whether it's the weekly Torah portion or the daily page of Talmud or Maimonides or discourses and insights from different commentaries on that week's Torah portion. And just like you may get a magazine every week in the mail, you get a Torah publication to take with you all week long and read it cover to cover. Well, this publication, incidentally, is also in English. If anyone wants to order it, it's called Chayenu, Chayyenu. You could go online, you could order it as a subscription to your home every week. We'll give you weekly Torah study, or there's an app where you could download it on your phone, Chayenu. But I get the weekly one that's in Hebrew, without English, called Dvar Malchut. And Omer Shem Tov's parents went online and said, we're looking for a soldier by the name of Yoel Elbaz. And his name was written on this booklet. He was a soldier who went into Gaza over a year ago as an IDF soldier to fight for the rescue of the hostages. and he left behind his booklet that he took with him to study in Gaza. And it ended up being found by Omer Shem Tov. And Omer Shem Tov said, this was the only Torah book I had with me for 15 months practically. He said, I read it over 100 times. It gave me strength. It gave me inspiration. And now that I'm free, I want to return it to Yoel Elbaz and thank him for passing this on to me, because it gave me spiritual nourishment and strength. And we know that Yoel Elbaz, that Omer Shem Tov began keeping Shabbat in captivity, became more connected to his Jewish roots and heritage and observance of mitzvot. And it was this book that inspired him. And when the book was opened to see what the discourses were, the very first discourse in this book that he had in captivity was all about the story of Joseph and how he was thrown into a pit and then sold into slavery and then imprisoned in Egypt. But ultimately he not only survived, but he thrived and he rose up to become the viceroy of Egypt. And the Rebbe in the discourse explains, how can Joseph have overcome such immense challenges and struggles in his life? The Rebbe explains that every Jew has a godly soul, which is laden with strength and connectivity to God and transcendence from this physical world. And therefore, even in the darkest places, they could overcome the challenges that they face. And this message of Joseph resonated with Omer Shem Tov, who was in his own captivity, in his own pit, in his own confinement and imprisonment, knowing that his soul can transcend above and beyond any limitations. That's the message of Purim. The world may seem limited. It may seem like we're confined in a box, in a finite structure. But when we recognize that our soul is part of God, and therefore it spins in a circular motion, it is infinity. Our infinity, what lies within us, is greater and stronger than anything that lies before us. And therefore, we have the strength and the ability to perform miracles in our lives, and with the supernatural strength of our soul, overcome the natural challenges all around us. May the holiday of Purim bring joy to the Jewish people and to all of humanity, not just on Purim, but every day of our lives, and be able to transcend the dark physical limitations that may surround us. Have a wonderful day.